It's me again, I'm calling from a faraway land. Pick up the phone, I'm calling from a different time zone. Heard you are a pretty good source for major topics in art discourse. I'll leave my questions as a message at the dial tone.
Hello and welcome back to Art Discourse. On today's episode, Chrissy and I are going to open another question.
We're always opening a question. That's every episode.
Sometimes we answer the question correctly.
There's no correct answer.
Never is.
No. It's just an answer. It's just our answer. I feel like we should have a disclaimer at the top of all of these where we say something like a therapist would say if they were doing a YouTube channel. Who's that therapist that I watch all the time? Can't remember his name. Dr. Grande. Where we say like, we're not saying that this is the only answer to these questions. This is just our answer to these questions based on our personal experience in this moment. You probably have your own answer and we want to hear it. So please share it below. Let's have a conversation together. We are not the only ones that know how to answer these questions.
No.
If our work is considered so valuable and important, I already like how this one's starting. Why are we so poor? And why have we all accepted this as an aspect of art making? That's a great and sad question. This is honestly something we talk about a lot, is the position that artists have in society and this perpetual like fabrication of artists being broke. I mean, that's not necessarily true. There are a lot of broke artists. We're broke a lot of the times as artists. But I think that right now, honestly, because of the pandemic, it's been a little bit more apparent how valuable the arts is and what artists can bring to the world.
So first off, arts isn't just a painter in...
Yeah.
Our battery's about to die. You were saying something about the pandemic.
I was saying that I was having a conversation recently with a group of other artists that mentioned that they've noticed that since the pandemic, it feels like society is a bit more aware of the value of the arts. And then you were saying that the arts in this context, and you know, should be all the time, isn't explicitly just like a painter in a painting studio.
No. Like the arts is like overarching and broad, and that applies to like the arts covers every show you watch, every kind of song you listen to, every title sequence to any of the shows that you've binged on Netflix.
These little guys on the front of this question box that we have here.
The pattern and textiles of clothing to what's adorned in your home.
Musicians.
The arts is like permeated into kind of everything, and so you know, why is it like arts is so important? Like these are the reasons why. Because without arts, we would live in the dullest, grayest, most utilitarian, likely gray boxes. I feel like this was an art movement at some point, but. It would feel very stale, and it's because of the arts things can have character and things can have like a feeling to them. And unfortunately, it's always kind of this negative connotation that artists are poor.
I think that like, you know, a few years back, Kyle and I were at a conference called Southern Graphics. It's a printmaking conference. And we had, sort of similar to this, but made out of cardboard, a little vending machine. And we invited people that were coming to our table and talking with us to share a story about a time where they were taken advantage of as an artist, usually financially. where they were either like asked to do something for free or asked to do something and it was implied that they were going to get paid, but then that they finished the project and the money didn't exist, or they gave information of how much something would cost and people seemed sort of offended or taken aback about how much it costs to do something. And they shared those stories with us, and they could use the vending machine and get something from our table, or we collaborated with some other artists for like gifts. So we were kind of paying them through gifts for their stories to tell us these stories about kind of being taken advantage of in the arts. And it was the easiest conversation because everybody had a story. I don't think there was any single person that came to our table that didn't have a story of being, just kind of being made to feel bad for wanting to get paid for their work, or it being assumed that they wouldn't have to be paid for their work. That was very popular. So I think it's kind of, it is a bit of a perpetuant narrative that the arts isn't valuable in money, but it's valuable societally. I think this is a great conversation to be having.
Yeah, it's a toughie. I think a lot of it is like rooted in kind of the Industrial Revolution, where the commodification of goods and just kind of skyrocketed, where factories could create a lot of things for a cheaper price point. And I feel like over the course of the past like 200-ish years, that kind of like culture of like goods for cheap has negatively impacted artists, where an artist or an arts person, or like we are kind of craftsmen, where we take time to do something uniquely and it's a single thing. And that's why it costs a lot, is generally because it takes a long time to do anything. A painting probably can take hundreds of hours, not all the time, but like generally I think painting takes quite a while. Same with print, same with like other things. Yes, sometimes there are these weird exceptions where you like knock out a painting in 2 hours and it's like amazing.
But I think the thing with that also kind of causes a bit of trouble is that, like anything, like, you know, when we watch someone run really fast at the Olympics, it's not like they got up that day and they were like, I'm gonna run really fast today. They've been practicing to run fast and efficiently, and you know, every part of the decision, how they cut their hair, the kinds of clothes that they're wearing, you know, there's a lot of like time and effort and thought that goes into just running really quickly for a short period of time. And so even if, say, a musician kind of gets like a lucky break and they come out with a song really rapidly, there's all of this time before then where they've been honing their craft that's given them the ability to do something quickly, 1 or 2 or 3, or maybe every time, I don't know. So, you know, I think that when you watch someone drawing and they're drawing really fast and really well, it's usually because they put in a lot of practice and a lot of effort into like creating the ability to do that thing.
There's a strangeness within the art world. I feel at one point artists were much more akin to, say, carpenters, or to, well, there probably wouldn't have been plumbers, you know, 400 years ago, but like plumbers and masons, and artists were more seen as a craftsperson rather than artists as being this kind of unique, weird creature that sits outside of the capitalist economy. And I think because of that, the public's understanding and perception and I guess perceived value of an art never really developed. And so I guess they developed in a way, but like I don't think like most people understand how much an art is worth. Mm-hmm. Whereas like you can kind of like, oh, what's that? Your fender fell off your car? You can be like, oh, it's probably gonna be about $300.
Yeah. Or
like, you know, 400 or 500 at like Crappy Joe's or whatever.
But I think it's also like because of the like just obscurity of the art world, you know, we're talking about, what is it, NFTs?
Yeah.
And, you know, so there's also these like way inflated price amounts that, I mean, in some ways make the art world seem like ludicrous and sort of silly to certain people. And it can create this like very challenging imbalance. So, you know, someone is making just obscene amounts of money off of something that maybe doesn't make a lot of sense to everybody. And then somebody who is, you know, carving, you know, a marble sculpture for
Do you think
years.
The problem might reside in like there's no agreed upon unified like value of art? So
Maybe.
like there isn't just like you know, like I feel like if you were to ask like a carpenter to build a house and you went to one person and then went to another company and then another company, another company, another company, they would all kind of land in the same kind of bracket. You know, like materials plus labor equals price plus a bit of profit in there. But within the art world, you're totally right, where like some stuff is like crazy dirt cheap and then there's stuff that is like crazy expensive. And some of it like relies just solely on fame, and it like that's the only real factor between like my like
No, I do
it's
think
just
that.
totally crazy.
I think that like, I feel like part of it is artists can be their own worst enemies. I think that a lot of artists, myself included, I can speak for myself here, feel uncomfortable about how to price their work, and there's an awkwardness if you're talking to a client, and that just, you know, it depends on certain projects. I don't feel awkward at all about, but other projects, like if I'm doing something for a city or a community arts group, I feel very confident saying like, these are the fees that I charge per hour, this is how many hours I think it's going to take. But sometimes if it's a private client, I feel a little less confident because I'm scared of that lack of understanding that maybe the general public has about, the time that goes into creating. And then also, you know, then we have these other people that feel very confident in asking serious amounts of money for their work, and it can sometimes seem preposterous to the outside world where these figures are coming from. So yeah, I don't know. I love this question. It's
complex because I don't like it. There isn't any agreed upon real standard. There is no like artists guild that said, you know, this is how you price out for artwork.
I mean, we have Carfac in Canada, which is a little bit like that.
Yes.
That's our timer.
Like there are some standards to it. But the art world, from like, I guess maybe speaking from an education point of view, there just isn't kind of that, I guess, that training that you would kind of get. Like when you go through like graphic design school, you are taught about like how to price out for jobs and how to price out for these things and how to like run a business. But in art school, that doesn't seem to happen as often. It seems to be happening more and more. I think that, at least in the conversations that we have with different universities and people going through the education system now, but like it's still a ways away from having like, what is that book, like the graphic design, like whatever?
Yeah, I don't know.
Like it just has contracts in it. It has information on how to price out for web design, how to price out for logo design.
Yeah.
And then how to price out those things based upon the client. Because I think like what you were saying is that there is like a bit of a problem when you are making a project for a city versus making a project for your friend, where one person and the other person are in vastly different economic brackets. And then there's another problem when somebody approaches you and says, hey, I would like to use your artwork and put it on t-shirts. And then that's
that's a whole other world.
But like that's a whole world that's not really, there's no real agreed upon standard. And so like not even amongst the people making it, right? So like it just causes even further kind of compounding problems.
Yeah, this is a great question. I think we would love to hear your thoughts about why is it that the world both sees the arts as valuable, but also seems completely okay with artists maybe not making a good standard of living?
We'd love to hear back like how you kind of like experience the art world and, you know, what your thoughts are on this subject.
Opening up conversation is always makes these types of questions a lot more interesting. So let's keep the conversation going.
If you enjoyed this video, could you do two things for me? Could you like it? And could you subscribe to our channel? Both of these things help us out tremendously. A big shout out to all of our patrons. Your continued support is amazing, and we really appreciate the encouragement to continue making these videos. If you want to become a patron, you can see the link below in the description.
In art discourse,
Catch you next time.
Thanks for joining us.
questions as